So I've been playing this video game lately called Baldur's Gate 3. And
I've
I
heard
know,
of it.
I know you told me you were looking at it, but
Yeah, because I've played the first two.
oh, really? Because I haven't played the first two. I've only played the third one.
Yeah, I've actually I think I have the second one on my phone, actually.
Oh, interesting. Well, for those people listening who don't know, it's just Dungeons and Dragons in a video game. It's Dungeons and Dragons rules, Dungeons and Dragons, specifically 5th edition lore, stats. It is like not financed, but like licensed by Wizards of the Coast, the people who make D&D.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a great game. I love it because of just how much detail is in this game. Like what race you choose or what class you choose will change the dialogue options that you have throughout the game.
Right. And I've heard that it's there have been other games that have kind of been in this Dungeons and Dragons-esque realm, Neverwinter Nights,
Sure.
the Knights of the Old Republic RPGs, but this one really is it from what I've heard, it really does give you the freedom to actually play it like you would.
Oh, dude.
You the tabletop D&D.
I straight up beat a boss by knocking him off the platform into the outer space nothingness.
So it's Super Smash Bros.
It can be.
Okay.
But one of the things that I really appreciate about it is just they've also thought of all these little funny, quirky things that you didn't think, like you said, that people who are actually playing D&D would think of, but that other people who are just video game players might not. So for example, and I haven't gotten this far, but I've seen several videos of it. When you get to the actual town, Baldur's Gate, there's a point where you're doing a street game with a genie, and the genie is obviously cheating you.
Yeah.
And you have an option to distract him, and it doesn't tell you what that distraction is. But you have an opportunity to distract him. And if you take that opportunity, you basically just let out this loud, stinky fart that distracts the genie so much. He's like, oh my gosh, what did you eat? Are you dead inside? And then you win the game. And then he's like, what? No, you cheated. And then he legitimately turns you into a wheel of cheese. And for however much time you are rolling around as an actual wheel of cheese, your character moves and rolls around the map. And you have an action you can do that releases a stench, like a cheese cloud smell.
Delightful.
Which may not be a selling point of the game to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Not what I would have led with. Anyway, welcome to our extremely highbrow podcast, Agreeable Disagreements. It is apparently just a vehicle for fart jokes now.
Yeah.
No, it's
wow, you really ripped me a new one there.
Anyway, moving on.
Well, I think that's fitting considering
moving on.
I know I'm moving on. I'm saying I think that intro, that lowbrow intro, is fitting given our topic for the week.
Sure, yeah. Which we'll get into in a second after I finish the intro.
Oh yeah, you got to do that.
This is Agreeable Disagreements. We are a podcast where two friends with differing political ideologies pick a topic from the week's politics and debate it. And this week we are, this is going to be a surprise to no one. We're talking about the Republican primary debates as well as Trump's, I think they called it a town hall, but it really wasn't a town hall.
I'll look at what they called it.
But his interview with the disgraced former Fox News employee Tucker Carlson.
Ugh, I do not okay. I said this to you before we started recording. I agree with both of them on some things as far as their stances go, but there is nothing that I can see or list off that as a person makes me like either one of those individuals.
Yeah.
I don't like Tucker Carlson. I don't like his voice. I don't like the cadence at which he speaks. I don't like the little look in his face.
It's smarmy. It's like if you look up smarmy in the dictionary, I'm pretty sure it's Tucker Carlson.
Oh man. Yeah, I could not bring myself to watch it.
I don't blame you. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have either if I didn't need to for this podcast, and I figured that you probably wouldn't, and that you would probably have more to say, at least more intellectual things to say about the Republican debate. So I decided that I would kind of focus more on the town hall, because both of them, both the debate and the town hall, are just utter garbage in my eyes.
Well, I appreciate your sacrifice on my behalf.
Thank you. It was a harrowing journey, but I'm happy to do it for our fans. Except Derek. Come on, man.
Freaking Derek.
Every time, dude.
I have a couple former students named Derek, and so I really hope that there's like not an off chance that Derek is listening to this.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, Derek, I hope you're doing your homework for your current teacher. Because we both know you didn't for me.
Just put him on blast.
He knows. We talked about it frequently.
And that's Derek Iverson with an I.
Yeah. As I'm just casually picking some gunk out of my eye on camera. Gosh.
Man, you're really classing it up this episode.
I am. You know, you hang around enough 12-year-olds and you start acting like one.
You know, that's fair.
Ugh, man. Speaking of which, oh my gosh, I blew I blew their minds today. We were talking about like ancient Greek philosophy. And so I covered Plato's theory of forms.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the point where it's like, so his argument is that you have an idea of something, which is one thing, but then you have the real thing, which is many things, right? So like you think of a pencil, the pencil is actually one thing in your head, but in reality, it's a mixture of paint, wood, glue, graphite, rubber, metal. And so which one of those is the real pencil? The idea of it or the physical one?
Okay.
Right? Because
I think the physical one.
But the physical one isn't actually one thing, it's many things, and one cannot be many things. The number one the number one cannot be equal to the number 3.
No, but it doesn't necessarily need to be it can be the sum of all its parts.
You're absolutely correct, and I do agree with you.
Distinct thing from one, even though it's made up of 3 distinct ones.
Right, and that is what we would argue against Plato today. But his argument was you have that sum of things is the idea that exists in your head. And so what I do is I say, so then if you can imagine a pencil, you can imagine your favorite food, your home, whatever. Does that mean that it's real in your head, just like it's real in real life? And most of the students are like, yeah, okay, all right. And then I ask them, so where does reality end and your imagination begin? Where is that line between imagination and reality?
Oh, I think we already, we may have already discussed this.
Maybe we did.
I think I came down to the conclusion that the physical thing that's real, or I think where reality and imagination end is when your imagination starts to contradict reality.
But then what is reality? And we could go into that. We're not going to.
I've got whole term's worth of papers on Descartes' meditations that I could go into right now. But
well, don't put Descartes before the horse. Anyway. All right. So, but speaking of 12-year-olds losing their minds, let's talk about the Republican debate.
Yes.
And I do want to refresh ourselves. Let our listeners remember, I am not a Republican, but I am, you could argue, conservative leaning.
You're the resident Republican representative.
Like, I would...
For the purposes of the show.
Yeah. I have voted Republican. I have voted Democrat. I have voted Libertarian. And I don't think any of those three really lines up with what I would call myself. I don't have a label aside from just centrist-ish. Because, like, I look at libertarians and I'm like, yeah, but also, like, government does serve a purpose.
Yeah. You can't just burn your trash in the backyard.
Right. And then I look at... Yeah, that's not cool, man. And then I look at Republicans and Democrats and be like, but you guys don't get the purpose of government. So... I think they both overreach, but that's another topic for another. We can talk all about that.
Yeah.
Before we get distracted, I'm not going to let us get distracted from this Republican debate. So I just wanted to remind people, like, I have voted for all three major political parties in recent years, right? This last year, I voted for Democrats locally, Republicans locally, not this last year, this last election cycle, and Libertarians for president. So, like, I try and vote by person as much as I can, because there are a lot of Republicans who I agree with. There's a lot of Democrats I agree with. There's a lot of Libertarians I agree with, but I wouldn't say that I agree with any one party. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas,
I mean, I would say the same for me, but it just so happens that the people that I agree with have been exclusively Democrats.
Okay. But you are a registered Democrat, are you not?
Yes.
See, I am not. Yeah.
Well, I think I would be a registered Democrat either way, but even if even if, say, you know, I did want, like, if I did support some, like, or not libertarian, but Republican candidates, I still would probably register, you know, Democrat rather than independent, because in Oregon, at least I think it's still the case, you have to register for the party if you want to vote in their
primaries. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And so I think when I lived in Oregon, I registered as a libertarian. Democrat. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then when I was in Hawaii, I didn't have to register as anything independently.
Yeah.
And so I could vote. And I think in Alabama it was the same, because I voted in a Democratic primary in Alabama. And then I don't remember what it is up here. I'm not registered for a political party, so I don't know if I get to vote in primaries or not. I guess I should look that up. Do I get to vote? I'll do this later. I'll look that up later.
And I don't think you have to serve jury duty.
I do have to serve jury duty because I just did, like, 4 months ago.
Okay. I saw something on, somebody was posting on the local, like, things going on around Springfield Facebook group, asking how to unregister for voting. And it was like, just don't vote. Like, it's not, unregistering is not going to stick it to the man. Like, if you really feel that strongly, don't vote, which is the only time you'll ever hear me say that, because voting is the very basic price that we all pay to live in a democracy, and it's everyone's civic duty, and you should definitely vote every chance you get. I agree. There are no excuses.
Speaking of which, I did look it up anyway, because it was going to bug me. Indiana actually doesn't have you register it with a political party.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so you can, it's not part of your voting registration record. So you just give them your contact information and your ID, and that's it. To register, you're done. Boom. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I think that Oregon system is the best. It just it happens to work for me because I'm you know, again, very much a party line Democrat, not because I'm just voting down party lines, but that's where I tend to, you know, lie regardless.
I mean, I don't see a problem with that system, because what if you have a bunch of Republicans who just want to screw over the Democratic Party and just go vote for the most conservative possible Democrat they could, or the most outrageous one, just to make them have a bad name? Like, I see the reasons behind having a Democratic primary and a Republicans only primary, you know, stratified system. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. But we are getting off topic.
We are. And we said we wouldn't. Back to the debate.
Yeah.
So I put up a Facebook post shortly after the debate ended on the 23rd, 5 days ago. And I gotta say, Nikki Haley stuck out the most to me because I think she was the most down to earth out of everybody on the stage.
I can see that. I don't know if I agree. I personally think that Chris Christie was the most down to earth. But that's also, I'm also of the opinion that none of them were, just in general. But if I had to pick one, I think it would have been Chris Christie.
I don't know, because Christie still has some of these stances that he wants to say that he could do. Like, he still has some of these stratified political stances on like pro-life, pro-choice kind of things. Whereas Nikki Haley is like, we're not going to get a federal abortion ban because you have to get 60 senators to agree to that. And that's just not going to happen in the Senate under any circumstances. Right.
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe not down to earth. I guess pragmatic is the better word choice. But she stuck out to me as fairly pragmatic, just with a lot of her stances, which sadly means she probably won't get elected.
Oh God, no.
Because how dare we elect someone who thinks logically?
Yeah, that's not the Republicans' brand.
I think. Oh, okay. Let's just not stick that to just the Republicans. Okay, right? Democrats think money grows on trees.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. They think that you need to have taxes in order to spend money.
Oh, really? Okay. Because then we could look at which presidents have increased the deficit the most.
That's not what I'm saying. But we're getting off topic again.
Yeah.
I think the majority of Haley's talking points may have happened. I had trouble finding the live stream of the debate, so I didn't.
I'm not paying for Fox News.
Yeah. Oh God, no. So I didn't see like maybe the first 15 minutes of it. And then after that, I didn't really see her talk too much. I did. I know that I initially liked her. I think she made a good case for why we should be supporting Ukraine.
I agree.
And then immediately after that, like I sent you a text being like, "Oh, that was a good point." And then immediately after, she's like, "And Israel," and I was like, maybe we should slow down on the, propping up a oppressive government that is systematically committing war crimes against a native population. That maybe that the money should be contingent on them not doing that. But what do I know?
Which, I think if we're going to do that to Israel, we should do it to China too. I mean, the ongoing Uyghur genocide is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Every time we get to like modern history in my class and I mention that that's something ongoing, my students are like, "Oh, what?" Anyway. Yeah, I liked her a lot. I think she held herself very well. Like she got involved in a little bit of the back and forth, but didn't do it in a way that was like rude or obnoxious. Like she still got involved in it, but it wasn't like...
she wasn't Vivek.
Yeah, or Chris Christie. I mean, both of them, they had like a back and forth for a solid minute where they were like raising their voices at each other.
But I mean, he's from Jersey, right? So isn't that just kind of how they talk?
Chris, the situation, Christie.
Yeah. What would be his? What is it? Gym, tan, sleep. We know he's not going to the gym.
He looks kind of tan.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Tanning, maybe. Sleeping, definitely. But what replaces the gym? Is it parking a bus sideways on the George Washington Bridge? Can we make that more like a
that's a deep
version
cut
of that?
Oh my gosh, right? I forgot that happened, and then you just
I'm not gonna let people forget that happened.
Just sparked a core memory.
I think people were stuck there for 15 hours.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah.
You know what? At least he didn't fill a bus with illegal immigrants and send them to Martha's Vineyard with no plan to house or provide any basic resources for them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, who would do that? Certainly not one of these candidates.
Oh, yeah, definitely not Ron DeSanctimonious.
Oh, God.
Who, I'm just going to read what I wrote about this because I don't think I could remember it. I wrote on my post, Ron DeSantis sounds like Mikey Day doing a spoof commercial skit for SNL. Like he's intentionally reading from cue cards poorly. And he answered precisely 0 questions. Also, he doesn't know what Percocet is.
Yeah, that's... I think that's something I texted you.
It is. Yeah, I stole that from you 100%. And I did not give you credit in the post.
Well, no, that's fine. But it's like I get what he was saying because what he meant to say was like opiates.
Yeah, he meant like fentanyl-laced drugs. But then he
yeah, like if it's got something other than I think it's is it codeine that's in Percocet?
I don't know.
Or hydrocodone, I don't know. But like Percocet is a name brand for a very specific formulation of opiates. If it has other stuff in it, it's not Percocet. Like you can't add like if I were to add fentanyl to a bunch of crushed up like ibuprofen, I don't still get to call that ibuprofen. Well, or Advil, I guess.
And just, Googling, is Percocet laced with fentanyl? Everything I'm coming up is saying fake pills. People are telling you it's Percocet, but it's not. Yeah. So either way.
Yeah. It's also not the doctors and pharmacists that are doing that. Well, they're not themselves creating these counterfeit pills. It is definitely their fault for especially historically for making these drugs so widely available and pushing us into the opiate crisis. But yeah, I mean, I don't, there was something else that DeSantis said that I thought was just insane. Let me go back into our text. I think it had to do with like protecting kids or something.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll tell you what I thought was interesting was one of the few times where I really liked what Vivek Ramaswamy had to say was when when DeSantis finished one of his very clearly pre-rehearsed sound bites that was not in any way, shape, or form an answer to the question he was given. And Vivek gets to him and goes, well, now that we're all done with our pre-rehearsed sentences or pre-rehearsed statements, let me say that I'm the only person not brought up here. And DeSantis, DeSantis just kind of side-eyes him. And Mike Pence goes, is that one of yours? And I was
like one of
your pre-rehearsed. One of your pre-rehearsed talking points. And I'm not a big Daily Wire guy. My wife really likes the Daily Wire. And I know you're not, but Ben Shapiro was reacting to the debate. And it gets to that point where Mike Pence says, is that one of your pre-rehearsed talking points? And Ben just goes, yes, 100%. Totally is. Like, of course it is. He's going to rehearse.
I need you to be like half an octave higher and a little more nasally.
Yes, 100%.
Nailed it.
Please. Yes, of course. Did you find it?
I don't have to step up or stand on my tiptoes to look taller than my wife in photos.
Did you find your Ron DeSantis thing you were looking for?
No, I didn't. But
that's okay. I think I'm okay not talking about him, if we're being honest. Yeah. I don't like him.
No, he just reminds me. He's got like trust fund frat boy energy.
Yeah, I could see that. I think
like I can't take him seriously just because having been in a fraternity, it feels like he's not running for president. He's running for the chapter house vice president of recruitment or philanthropy or something.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's how I feel about Vivek. I feel like Ramaswamy.
Well, he's just insane.
I thought so. I even wrote on my post, Vivek Ramaswamy is, all caps, nuts. And since I wrote that, I've kind of re-examined some of the things that he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking that back a little bit. I'm not going to say that he's nuts. I still don't support him. I still don't know that I would vote for him. But I do think he's not running for president.
Yeah.
I think he's running for vice president.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, he was pretty complimentary of Trump during the debate.
Everything he said, that whole debate, was either a Trump defense, and not just like, oh, well, things happen. It was like straight up, no, this was the right thing to do, which in some cases, I think that's correct. And I think in some cases, Trump gets too much flack for some of the things that he did, as do most presidents. But also, like, hiding documents that you shouldn't have had in the first place and stuff like that. Like, totally, like, not defensible in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and being like, I think a really easy, like, point that everyone on that stage should have been able to get was defending Ukraine.
Right.
And I think he was the only one on that stage that didn't I don't know that he like explicitly said that we shouldn't be involved in Ukraine at all, but he was definitely more sympathetic to Russia, which is I think very close to what Trump has been advocating.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate to say. I think, I feel like the Ukraine talking point in particular is a little difficult, because with Republican politicians, it's we want to make peace with and have Russia as an ally. But with Republican voters, it's more, we should be using that Ukraine money to help our own people in the United States. There's a lot of people here that are struggling. Look at how much money we're sent to Ukraine in the last couple of months, and how much money did we send to the Lahaina fires in Maui, right?
Yeah.
It was not very much money to Maui. So I can see that argument. I can see that side of it being we need to be taking care of our own Americans as well. Like, we're paying all these taxes and we're not seeing a whole lot of it. That's a big sentiment among Republicans. But at the same time, as a history,
back real quick, though.
Well, let me finish because I'm almost done.
Okay.
Because the other thing I would say is, like, as a history teacher, especially someone who in my master's program focused on World War II and post World War II communist era, like, there's a lot to be said for the United States getting involved in Ukraine. Like, it would probably have gone a very different route that would not be favorable to anyone but Russia had we not sent a lot of that aid. So I think there's a good reason for us to be involved. I think we should be involved. But I understand the two reasons why people are saying no. I understand why that's a controversial point. Now, what are you going to say? You're going to push back on when I was talking about the other part.
Yeah, so I think, I just don't think that it needs to be mutually exclusive, that we can either help Ukraine or help U.S. citizens. I think we have more than enough resources to do both. But we're not, for other reasons that are a lot more nuanced. I also think, and I don't know any of the figures on what resources were needed in Hawaii, or what how much funding we sent to the different people who needed it to fight those fires. But I think it makes sense that we would send a lot more money to Ukraine, because it's a lot broader problem that we're dealing with that requires more resources. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was the case that more money wouldn't have necessarily helped fighting the fires in Lahaina. It was, other things.
Okay, but do you know how much money the government has given Lahaina, has given Maui?
How much?
It's only like $10.5 million.
Okay. Did they need more than that?
Are you aware about the cost of living and things in Hawaii?
No, okay. I get what you're saying. But, like, if we gave them more than that, and I'm talking about the effort to stop the fires. I'm not talking about the relief efforts, which I think we should be, now giving more money to, and I hope that we will. But I'm talking about just in order to fight the fires. What I'm saying, and I have no idea. I could, this could be a total non sequitur, but if we gave, $20 million, would that have, helped put the fires out faster? Would it have helped if we had more helicopters or, what have you to put the fire out faster? Also, that's one small island versus a whole country that is being invaded by, a somewhat superpower, and we're providing them with, equipment that costs $35 million a pop.
Well, the reason it costs that much money is for a lot of reasons that we don't want to get into right now. But I will say,
but I don't think that changes the point.
I agree that comparing an ongoing, multiple years long now war to a natural disaster is not quite fair. However, all right, according to CNN, Maui experienced $5.52 billion in damages, or at least that's what they're saying is going to estimated cost to rebuild Lahaina. $1.3 billion alone was residential. And they only get $10.5 million from the federal government
so far. I don't think that that's gonna, because
but the money they have gotten, that $10.5 million wasn't to stop it. That's to rebuild. That's from the federal government's, here, go rebuild yourself. Now, you're right. So far, they could give more, and that's, I think it's $10.5 to $12 million in an initial release.
Yeah, I think that was like slush fund money that we could release now, and to get more money, we have to go through the red tape, and so it's going to take like another couple weeks for that money to get approved or something.
Right, but you got to think of it from these Republicans' perspective, because they're saying, well, it seems really easy to go through the red tape when we're sending it to Ukraine, but it takes weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months to get it to a wildfire in one of our own states. A state which, by the way, still is not happy to be American, because their government was overthrown by businessmen who then sold it to America.
What? Americans would never do that.
So, I don't know. I understand that. I mean, you look at Flint, Michigan, right? Flint, Michigan only recently, if not still ongoing, recovered.
No, because we did talk about this on an earlier podcast. I think it was like last year or something, or like 6 months ago.
Yes, 2022, right? And so you're telling us it took us like 5-something plus years to get clean drinking water in Flint, Michigan, and yet we can drop all this cash to send to Ukraine.
Well, because we don't have the those issues, I don't think are as mired with gridlock and just blatant obstructionism. I think that Ukraine, at least initially, I think most people on both sides of the aisle were in favor of supporting Ukraine in some way. Now, how we support Ukraine, that's, I think, where the debate got a little more heated, but I think it's more complex with, most issues. And it's not that we're unwilling to do something to help. It's that we have differing ideas about how to help.
I agree.
And also, a lot of times, unfortunately, I think our politicians are more worried about their political opponents not getting credit for help. And so they'll vote against something like I think the veterans benefits was one of those, where it was like Democrats were like, okay, no, like we want to support the troops, which is typically, a party platform for Republicans. Yeah. And because the Democrats wanted it, the Republicans were kind of like, no.
Right. And the same happened with a budget proposition in 2018, I want to say, with Republicans who just sent a copy. It's more about trying to keep their jobs as politicians than it is as actually trying to help people, with a lot of them. Some of them aren't. I feel like some politicians are genuinely there to try and help. I think Senator McCain, John McCain, was one, because he stopped people from bad-mouthing Obama, like on his own campaign trail, which I thought was very respectable. I think I would also argue that Tulsi Gabbard, when she was in office as a Democrat, was very much the same way. I think, what's the guy who's on TikTok? There's a senator from North Carolina, a Democratic senator on TikTok, who is basically telling you, here's how you get elected, here's how the actual House works. Or he's a House Representative.
Yeah, I know the guy that you're talking about, but I can't think of his name.
Jeff Jackson. That's his name. Jeff Jackson. He seems super sincere and very open about it. So I think there's people who really do want to help, but those are, sadly, I think, the minority.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe why, God forbid, if I had to pick somebody from that stage to be president, I would be the least upset with, just based on the performance of the debate, I would be least upset with Chris Christie, because I get the sense that even though I vehemently disagree with most of his politics, he at least seems like he's trying to be a genuinely decent guy.
See, and I don't get that from him.
I'm not saying he's succeeding at all. I'm saying that I don't think that he is as, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but
I would say I don't think he's wearing as much of a facade as some of the other.
I guess he seemed the most authentic.
Right.
Like I didn't think he was really, trying to hide another agenda like Vivek
I feel like everyone else is trying to hide how much of a jerk they are, and Chris Christie's like, no, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Man, one thing I really,
I can respect that to some extent.
I really like, he points at Vivek at one point and goes, sounds like she's Chat GPT over here. I was like,
yeah. Which, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Chat GPT was used heavily in preparation for this debate.
Oh, dude, I love Chat GPT. Right, I don't want to get into it too much.
Yeah, I'm still afraid to try it.
Oh, okay,
I'm getting bad Skynet.
So for those people who don't know, I run my own history website called MrStockford.com, and I posted 3 articles to it. And I posted those 3 to my Facebook and asked all of my historian friends, people who have PhDs, to try and tell me which one was written by ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. And out of the 3 or 5 people who read them, only one of them got it. And it was because he knew the sources that were listed in the bibliography and the footnotes, and noticed that 2 of them were combined into a third one that didn't exist. Okay. And that's the only reason he caught it.
Yeah.
And turns out I actually made all 3 of them ChatGPT printed.
Oh my God. Okay.
That was the plot twist. It's fantastic. In a number of ways. I don't think it's ready to replace human writers, but it's darn close.
Do you remember Vian, Cameron and I's high school band teacher? He told me something once, and I don't know if there's any scientific basis for that. There frequently wasn't with his opinions,
As
but
there
he
aren't,
told
as it is for most of us, I should point out.
yeah. Well, no.
Anyway,
I'd say he was a little more loose with that. But he told me something once that like the human ear can automatically tell, like without consciously knowing that it's able to recognize this, but the human ear can just automatically tell the difference between a drum machine and a human drummer, even if that drummer is, playing on beat, because there's just little, pieces of humanity that are kind of there's like just a minuscule amount of randomness, and it's enough that it makes a difference in how you perceive something.
That is true. Like, as a drummer who has done some like minor recording, and like my brother who has done quite
you played
a bit.
The drums?
What?
I didn't know that.
No, and then like my brother who's way more into it than I am, who's, recording with symphonies and other solo groups and stuff like that. Like, it is true. I mean, I'll send him stuff that I think is, for me, it's on the fence. Like, could be a machine, probably, maybe not. And he'll immediately go, machine. Right. And some of that is training, but, I mean, think about like 80s music. You can tell when it's a drum machine, when it's not. Think about techno.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should, speaking about things that sound, this is a terrible segue. Think about things that sound just a little off to the ear. All right. I did not like when Vivek said, and I didn't like this because this is something I disagree with all Republicans on, it seems. Climate change. Straight up dismissed the entire climate change agenda. Stopped short of saying that climate change wasn't real. Stopped just short of that. Kind of hinted at it.
Because it's gotten to a point where even the, craziest climate denier can't deny that it is happening. Now they're just doubling down on, well, it's natural. And it's like, it's not.
And this is, I think, the part that got me to say Vivek is nuts, is when he said that we should start burning more coal, start burning more gas.
Oh, God.
And said that fossil fuels are necessary to progress in America.
No.
And I just...
Fossil fuels are unfortunately necessary
disagree.
for the current functioning of America, but it absolutely doesn't need to be that way.
And by definition, there is a finite amount. One day we will use up all of it, and there will be nothing left. And sure, we keep finding more, and we don't know when that day that we run out is going to be. It could be in 10 years. It could be in 1,000 years. But either way, we're going to run out.
Yeah.
And
if we don't find other energy sources, it's going to be sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And so I would rather err on the side of caution and have these cleaner energy sources ready to go 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
At a point where it's stable and part of the infrastructure, than not.
Yeah.
And be Mad Maxing it everywhere we go.
Yeah.
I did like that he said we should focus on nuclear energy, though. I did like that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I know that you and I talked about. So for those of you who don't know, I live right next to the Oregon State University campus, and they actually have a research reactor. And one of my good friends is a nuclear engineering grad student, and he works at the nuclear reactor, and he actually gave me a tour. There's a lot of publicity about primarily Chernobyl and Fukushima, but both of those had just some really pretty horrendous missteps in their management and their design. And so basically, according to all the data that we have on, nuclear energy, when it's run properly, it's extremely clean, extremely safe. So I think nuclear power is a great idea.
But that caveat is if it's run properly, right? Because
Right.
one of the books that I had to read in grad school is called Plutopia by Kate Brown. Not the former governor of Oregon, Kate Brown, someone who has the same name. But
and my stepdad's former boss.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and she argued in her book, her whole argument was that nuclear energy was overblown in its positive aspects, and that even though we say if it's done properly, it rarely is. And
I would very much disagree with that.
Well, I think what she was pointing out, and I would disagree too, but it was still a fascinating book in that she would say, like, for example, there's a former now shut down nuclear reactor in Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, close to where I used to live in Milton Free Water, right over in the Tri-Cities area.
Right.
And she talked about how their emissions were supposed to be at a certain threshold, but every time they would test it, they'd be higher, significantly higher. And so they'd have to try and bring those emissions of radioactive things down. And then by the time they would test it again, it would be higher again. So even though they were actively monitoring it, something was still going wrong. And they're all just like, At least that's what she said. I don't know if that's true.
I think I've heard something like that, but what I'm more talking about is like the way that Chernobyl was designed. It was designed kind of unlike any other nuclear reactor, where most reactors, when they reach that point, when like as they approach a meltdown, they automatically, like, they're built so that, without any input by the computer or anything, they cycle down to like a lower energy state. And for some reason, Chernobyl was designed to actually cycle up. So it actually like did the worst thing possible and like just ran full speed ahead into a meltdown. Fukushima, they just completely ignored some very basic maintenance and monitoring stuff.
Right.
And like criminal negligence to the worst degree.
My big problem with nuclear power, though, is that it also relies on a finite fuel. Right? There's only so much uranium, plutonium.
But we have more than enough to power what we would need for the foreseeable future.
Right. And in that amount of time, we could transition into fusion, which we're just starting to get some cool breakthroughs on.
Yeah.
But also, I think that would be a good talking point. I think it's going to be nuclear power is going to be a huge talking point this election. I really do.
I think so too.
And that's something that I wrote about, that I mentioned in my post. I think if you really want to know what you're going to talk about this election cycle, you should become familiar with the pros and cons of nuclear power, because it's going to come up a lot as we get more and more into heated climate change solutions.
Yeah. And just to add real quick, and I know I'm going to get this factoid wrong, but
I will Google it as you say it.
Yeah, I'll double check myself. Also, this may be a good time to remind our listeners that this is an entertainment show. We are just two idiots debating. We're not experts. We're not here to inform. So from time to time, we're going to get stuff wrong, and we're by no means trying to, be inaccurate. And we do try to educate ourselves as best as we can. But again, it's going to happen.
I do want to point out that I actively try and have the more part of the idiocy between the two of us, and it's a competition. You don't let me win. Yeah, you do. You don't let me. Gosh,
world champ, baby.
Anyway, what's the factoid that you might get wrong?
So I think it's something like my friend who is the nuclear engineer. He told me something like basically nuclear power is completely like all of the resources are completely recyclable, and over a nuclear reactor's lifetime, the amount of non-recyclable material that you'll generate from the fuel will be about the size of a baseball.
All right, that is correct. So I Googled it as you were typing it. According to the World Nuclear Association on world-nuclear.org, Most of the material used in fuel can be recycled, approximately 97%.
Yeah.
The vast majority of which is uranium, could be used as fuel in certain types of reactors.
Yeah.
So yeah. Wow.
So it's
really cool.
it's really efficient. It's really not hazardous if you just follow, the basic operating procedures. But you're right. If we don't do that, then it's, a catastrophe waiting to happen. But
yeah, I'm seeing another thing from the Orano group, which I'm not sure who they are. I haven't vetted it or checked it at all. But they are claiming that 1 gram of plutonium is equivalent to 1 ton of oil, 2.5 tons of wood, 1.5 tons of coal.
Yeah, I'd believe that.
It is a very packed, dense resource.
Yeah.
So one thing that I really want to say, I want to make sure we get to this, that I really liked about, I think, just about every candidate, was that they were really pushing the no more super old people in office kind of thing.
Were they?
Yeah, Mike Pence straight up said, we don't need old people, but we also don't need young people. We need middle people.
Which I disagree with.
The,
we do need young people, and also
I agree.
I took it more to be more patronizing.
I agree.
Yeah, you and you millennials and you're cute, but leave it to the adults.
I agree. That was pretty much how he intended it, I think.
Yeah.
But also, I think that's his way of saying I'm the perfect candidate, because he was, I believe, the oldest one on that stage.
Yeah,
and he's still not that old. I think he's in his 60s.
Who is the CIA guy?
You mean DEA?
Or DEA guy. Sorry.
Let me see what his name was. Gosh, is it Asa?
I don't know.
Asa Hutchinson? No, that's the former president or governor of Arkansas. No, wait, yeah, that's that guy. He is 72. Yeah, so Asa Hutchinson is 72. So he's older than Mike Pence, who's 64.
Okay.
So I think so that would be a jab at Hutchinson, while being a jab at Trump and Biden, and a jab at the younger people like Vivek and Chris Christie. And maybe not Chris Christie, because you're
Christie.
right.
I think more Haley.
I think even despite his health issues.
How old is Chris Christie and how old is Nikki Haley?
Nikki Haley's in her 50s. Chris Christie looks younger than he is, I think.
He's 60.
Wow, I would not have guessed that for him.
I definitely don't think that he looks like a healthy person of any age. But I can see what you're saying about he looks younger.
I would have put him mid-50s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley is 51.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think they were pushing the not super old people in office thing quite a bit. That came up with just about everybody on stage except for Hutchinson, who fits the bill of old people running for president. But I really like that, because I don't think that Trump is in touch with our generation's needs. I don't think that Biden is in touch with our generation's needs.
I don't think Trump is in touch with his bowel movements. I was trying to think of a more eloquent way to put that.
I thought you were going to have a serious, I thought you were just going to say, with anything.
I'm as serious as the grave, my friend. That is an actual opinion that I have.
And you got on me for fart jokes earlier, and now you're straight up making a poop joke.
Not a poop joke. A rumor that has some amount of credible evidence backing it up.
You know what? Who hasn't crapped their pants at one point or another in their life?
But not in the Oval Office during a meeting.
I don't know. The amount of coke
regularly.
that Jack Kennedy was doing as a president.
I'm willing to bet. Well, I'm not gonna make a bet either way, but I would not be surprised if Trump has done much more cocaine in his lifetime than the Kennedys combined.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we got Robert Kennedy Jr. running for office, and
he wasn't in the debate, was he?
No, because he's a Democrat.
Oh well, he's not, but.
Don't want to own that one, do you?
We'll
take
not.
Ted, we'll take Bobby, we'll take John, but Robert Jr. you can have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if one of our main guys running was an anti-vaxxer, I might have been the same way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's taking him seriously.
Sure hope not. But
yeah,
I mean, I do think, though, we need some youth, because Obama was in his 40s when he was first elected president.
Mm-hmm.
Bush was in his 50s. Clinton was in his 50s. Bush Sr. was up there. Reagan, until Trump and Biden, Reagan was the oldest elected president. And, it worked for him, kind of. They were able to hide a lot of his dementia affecting his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. I feel like I like the youth that we're seeing on the stage in the Republican Party. And I like that they're really trying to say, people want younger people in office. We are the younger people. Here's your opportunity.
Well, but I think I think more what that is them listening to people who are kind of saying, obviously I don't like Trump, but I also don't want to vote for Biden because I just want I want somebody who's not just an old white man, which
right.
I agree with, but I also think that comes from people who don't really have an opinion outside of that, and don't want to form an opinion outside of that. And then also it's kind of the only way that they can comfortably set themselves apart from Trump, because he is the front runner. He's going to get the nomination. I think that's basically just a foregone conclusion at this point. And so they don't want to necessarily, burn too many bridges, because there's the possibility of vice presidential appointment or a cabinet position or something.
Yeah, they're politicking.
Yeah. So they don't want to attack him for the things that they should be attacking him, like, the 94 indictments?
Something like that. It's up there.
So they don't necessarily want to attack him for the things that they should, or for his policies, because I really don't think that they differ as much as they would like to say that they do on policies. And so they're going after, here's how we're different. We're younger. And I think it's a little bit of a red herring.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I remember in 2020 when we had this wide range of Democrats running. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we had a ton of Democrats running. Yeah. Most of whom...
It was like 16 or something.
Yeah. Most of whom were pretty young.
Yeah.
And I remember lots of people, almost all of my Democrat friends, talking so much about how excited they were to not have an old white man in office, and then voted an old white man into office.
Because that was a special circumstance, because I wish that, any time was the right time to, get somebody who, to elect somebody with some diversity.
You had Tulsi Gabbard, who was Hindu. You had Eric Holder, who was African American.
Right.
And Cory Booker.
But none of them had the name recognition that Biden did that was necessary for him to beat Trump.
Hillary Clinton and John Kerry both did. But old white people.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Hillary Clinton and John Kerry didn't run in 2020.
I'm looking at Politico's old articles, and they put Hillary in it. Now, granted, Granted, it could just be that she was thinking about it.
I don't think she was. I think after 2016 she.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a better article.
But I think unfortunately, in 2020, we had to go with Biden because he was the only person that stood a chance to beat Trump, not because of his policies or any other reason besides he's who people knew.
I could see that. But I mean, look at the second runner was Bernie Sanders. Right? And then after that, you have Elizabeth Warren. And then after that, you have Michael Bloomberg. It's not until 5th place do you get someone who is relatively young or whatever, with Pete Buttigieg in that election.
Yeah, because we all know about Bernie Sanders. Most of us know about Elizabeth Warren, and, Bloomberg, very, high profile politician and businessman for, many years.
Well, I think this speaks to another point that running for president is going to accomplish one of two things. One, get you elected president, or two, further your political career that you're not going to win, right? Buttigieg knew he was not going to win president.
Well, Howard Dean would like to have a word with you about that.
What do you mean?
The Howard Dean yell.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, it was, I want to say it was the 2008 election. He was actually, I want to say, kind of a front runner in the primaries. And then he just, during a rally, is, trying to pump up the crowd and then just lets out this absolutely unhinged.
Oh my gosh. I've seen that video. I'm pulling it up.
After that, people were like, maybe not this guy, simply because he just got a little too excited.
I'm pulling it up.
And then virtually, disappeared after that.
All right. I'm going to live react to it right now. You're not going to hear it because it's in my headphones. Oh, no. Yeah!
It's like, yeah!
Oh, no.
It's like, okay, man. Jeez.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. No, but I think that I do think that you look at some of these people up here, right? How many people knew who Tim Scott was before this election? Right? The people who voted for him in South Carolina. I mean, did you know who Burgum was? I still don't think I know.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Right. Okay, that's because one of the things that I wrote in this post was that I didn't think anybody could be more bland than Mike Pence, but Doug Burgum proved me wrong.
Wait, so he wasn't the DEA guy? Because I thought the only person that we hadn't brought up that was on that stage was Tim Scott.
Nope, Doug Burgum. He's like Doug Burgum. Did you watch Arrested Development?
I've seen a little bit. I've seen maybe half a season worth. Okay. So not necessarily from a single season, but
okay. So one of the recurring characters is Michael Cera's character, George Michael, gets a girlfriend who is the most bland looking person, and her name is Anne. And everyone accidentally calls her bland, but more importantly, everybody constantly forgets that she exists.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, that's right, you have a girlfriend. She's sitting next to them in the car, and they're like, yeah, I think you could just, I think you should start dating, man. I have a girlfriend. She's right here. Huh. Kind of stuff, right? I think that's what it is.
Like Angela sneaking up on Dwight when they go to Dave and Buster's.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's what it is with Doug Burgum, right? Because you totally forgot he existed. He didn't have a whole lot of talking time.
I'm going to be honest with you. I am looking at his picture on Wikipedia right now. I have absolutely no recollection of ever seeing him once in that debate.
Yep, governor of North Dakota.
Okay.
Which, I mean, if you're going to come...
place.
Okay. It is gorgeous there.
Have you ever been to North Dakota?
I have not.
Exactly.
I've also never been to Ohio, and I'm not convinced that is real.
It's also fake.
Yeah. Everything is just Southern Canada at this point.
Well, yeah, it's just it's Western Pennsylvania. They don't want to tell you. I don't even know if Ohio and Pennsylvania border each other.
I think they do. I'm a geography teacher partially. You think I should know this. I quiz my students on the map all the time. Oh my gosh. This is sad.
Yeah, but it's them that has to learn. It's not you.
Yeah, they do. Okay, yeah, they do. They do.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Yeah, no, so yeah, Doug Burgum, so bland. And this is that's after I said that Mike Pence is made of wood and or white bread. Like, I think he made a couple good points, but he looks like a Lego man.
But also children's tears. You gotta have a little something to, give him that, like, organic kind of sponginess that, like skin and organs have. You gotta have something with a little moisture.
Oh my goodness. So we could keep going on this, but I think it would be important to touch on Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson, and you know way more about that than I did.
We should, but can we please just acknowledge the absolutely insane thing that Tim Scott said in his closing remarks?
Oh, please, go ahead.
He said something like I don't remember what the majority of it was, but he ended with the line, and I believe that if you're a man, you play sports against men. Right. Which was like, where did that come from?
Well, they all made some kind of statement throughout the night, and he was the only one who didn't get a chance to talk about whether or not, men should play against trans men or trans women, kind of a thing. But yeah, just to like say it that loudly and then pause. If you're a man, you play sports. And he said it with a tone that was like, this is the end of the sentence. Too.
Yeah, like this is something we all can get behind. And then I'm gonna say the thing that's, the nuanced part of my opinion. But it's like, sir, I've been a man for 30 years. I have no desire to play sports.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting was that Mike Pence mentioned his spirituality, mentioned his religious side a couple of times when relevant things came up, right? When abortion came up, things like that. But once he did that, anytime Tim Scott spoke, he quoted a Bible verse. He didn't do it before Mike Pence did that, but then he started it's like when they say in Ecclesiastes and then
it's like the Tim Scott was doing that?
Tim Scott, like everything he answered after Mike Pence dropped, my faith in Heavenly Father, Tim Scott's like, this Bible verse. It's
like he was listening to Pence and he was like, oh, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? I just had the sports thing that's gonna kill.
Or maybe it was like, this Southern Baptist can show that Midwesterner how it's done. I don't even know if he's Baptist.
I don't know.
Anyway.
But yeah, I thought it was just a very strange option. Like,
I
understand what he was saying. Like, and I think it would have been a horrendous thing to say any form of that, like, statement that he was trying to make. He could have done it in a way that wasn't just so absolutely unhinged.
Yeah, he could have calmed down.
Yeah.
He could have just been, I believe that if you're a man, you play sports against other men. But it was, I believe if you're a man, you play sports against other men.
But like the other thing is they were not talking about like the issue of trans people playing in sports. Like,
right.
They were talking about that. But correct me if I'm wrong, that was like fairly early in the debate, right?
So, I could be wrong. My recollection is that the closest thing they got was they were responding to that song Richmond North of Richmond.
Oh, yeah.
The singer came out and said, please don't. I don't like Republicans either.
No, he's talking about the people on that stage. I think that's actually what he said.
Well, he said he was talking about Republicans and Democrats. He said he doesn't care who it is. He's not a supporter of either party. But anyway, they were talking about that, and it came up a couple of times, and it just sort of became one person mentioned it, And then it sort of became a thing where throughout the night, each person would drop a comment in there like, and I think that men should be in men's bathrooms or things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a lot of coded language where they were talking about, traditional family values or protecting kids. And really what they were saying was they're going to limit the rights of the LGBTQ.
Oh, it wasn't even coded language. Like they straight up said, I think, these people, I think, men should play sports against men. I think women should only be allowed in women's locker rooms. Like they were very clear about those things, which, I mean, we could have a whole debate on, or a whole podcast on another time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would surprise you with that one.
I'm not sure that you would. I think I know.
Okay. Well,
I know you.
What do you think?
And I think that you are not going to let whatever your personal opinion is, I don't think that that's going to influence your political opinion. And so I think that you're just going to kind of say, like, I don't think it's, it's that big of an issue. I think if like there are other things that we could deal with to protect kids that, we don't need to be focusing on this.
So for me, the long and the short of it is I don't care what you identify as, because I feel like it's your life and it's your brain, it's your body. You can do whatever you want to it with it, but it gets to a point where my limit is when you bring other people into it and you bring other people into the equation. And so for me, it's, I don't care. You be a wolf if you want to be a wolf. It's not going to hurt me in any way, shape, or form. I will. Well,
until the full moon comes out.
Right, until the full moon comes out, and then we both get to be wolves. But once you start bringing in other people into it, and whether it's, even if it's not something that's harmful, I don't think you should ever force your opinions, your beliefs, your way of life onto somebody else. And so that's where I start to draw that line. And that goes both ways. I don't think that religious people should be shoving their values onto non-religious people and entities either.
Okay. We'll need to talk about this later, because this has potential to go to just take over the rest of the episode.
Right. Let's talk about that Tucker Carlson interview. I want to hear about it. Because God knows I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah. So I did watch it. It's, basically, it's not like anything was said that would surprise anyone. Both of them, I think, what I said to Cameron before we started recording was it was kind of hard to understand them with both of their noses so far up each other's asses. Because it's very, very funny.
And I totally forgot that's where you were going with that too. Like, that's the exact same reaction I had the first time you said it, because it was like, that's not where I thought you were going, and then it got me again. You got me twice.
No, but wow. it gave me like it gave me the vibe of like the mean sixth graders in the cafeteria, like making fun of everyone else.
Oh man.
But of course, Trump, kept saying that the election was stolen, kept, talking about how, like how corrupt, the Senate is, and just anyone who's ever opposed him. And Tucker Carlson was, just eating it up, and I think the only thing where they differed was that Tucker Carlson asked Trump whether he thought that Epstein killed himself, and of course Trump is going to say no.
I have to watch just that clip. Yeah. Oh my gosh! No,
because Tucker Carlson.
Not. No,
Tucker Carlson is like, absolutely killed himself. Are you kidding me? And Trump's like, well, I think it's possible, but I don't know. And it's like, yeah, because you're the one that set it up.
I don't actually know. Those guys must have been on the list if that's the case. Jeez.
Oh,
Oh
Trump
my
was
heavens.
absolutely on the list, but
Maybe both
I
of
also
them.
don't know if I don't know. I think that we're never going to find out what actually happened. I think we should, be trying to stop pedophiles, no matter who they are. And we can
Right.
certainly do a better job as a country, doing that, whether it's within religion, whether it's within Oregon professional sporting teams, or, multi-billionaire playboys.
Bringing in
That's my real hot take. I'm very anti pedophilia.
I feel like we all should be.
And I'm not going to
enough people
apologize
are.
for that.
Yeah, no, don't. I would feel more awkward if you did.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so yeah, there were no surprises.
Pedophilia is bad. That's not a hot take, man. That is just a logical take. That is a normal thing to think.
Yeah. Anyway, but like I said, there were no surprises. I do have some quick sound bites that I want to read to you.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
I tried not to go too crazy, so I limited it to just kind of my two favorites. The first one is from Tucker Carlson when he was when he was bringing up Epstein. He said, "I'm not a conspiracy person at all." Which, first of all, happy fault.
The man, like, broadcasting with the tinfoil.
Yeah. So but it gets better because he said, "I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear."
Oh,
which
that's
I had to rewind it. Which is like, that's...
No, he did not.
Like, I'm the last person to give Tucker Carlson any credit for whatever intelligence he may have. Even, like, this surprised even me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that gave me a good laugh. And then the other thing,
my gosh.
The thing that Trump said was he was, first of all, he was very into playing up Biden to be, just absolutely a feeble old man.
Sure.
He was saying, like, you look at him walk, like he can't even walk across the lawn, which is, just 2 inches of grass. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Who cares? Oh my gosh. FDR was in a wheelchair for part of it, like almost half of his presidency.
Yeah. Also, maybe he's got a little bit of arthritis, but it's not like he's, crawling on his hands and knees.
Right, and Trump looks like he can walk all the time everywhere he goes too, right? The man, like, waddles.
He just waddles. And once again, Biden's not shitting himself while he's doing it. So
that we know of. He could have some awesome depends down there. And we would not know. Nor is it, I should point out, our business. I don't want an answer.
But don't you really want to know?
No, I don't. I don't want to know either way because here's the thing. Either I'm going to think my president should be wearing depends and find out he's not, and that's terrifying. Or find out my president is wearing depends, and that makes me not want him to be president. So either way, I just want this to fall into the abyss that is the many things that I never want to know in my
Cameron,
life.
Let me paint a scenario for you.
Please, God, no.
You're president, all right?
Oh, no.
You're in the motorcade.
Uh-huh.
And you've just gotten word that there are 15 ICBMs. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
It's funny because it stands for intercontinental ballistic missile, but also for bowel movement.
Yeah. So if a joke is funny, you don't have to explain it. I just want to say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
For some reason, this makes it way funnier for me.
Well.
Anyway, you've just got word that North Korea has just launched nuclear attacks on our 15 biggest cities. And you have to send, you have to open up the nuclear football, and you have to send the launch sites, the launch codes and everything.
Right.
But you don't have your depends. So before you can do that, you have to find a Starbucks, get in line, order like just a black coffee so that they'll give you the code to the bathroom. And then you can send the nuclear codes. And by that time, Cleveland's gone. So wouldn't you rather know that our president is swaddled in the soft, absorbent...
Just stop.
Okay.
Please, dear God. No, finish it.
God's not listening to this conversation, buddy.
Oh, no.
He has checked out.
Anyway. I wish I could.
Yeah. Anyway, so Trump was very much like, just trash talking Biden. And that's really all either one of them did, was just
I figured that's what it would be. It was trash talk Biden and trash talk the...
Well, it wasn't even just Biden. It was like everybody. It was like they were, middle school children just being petty. So what Trump said at one point was, he was like, Biden was at the beach last week and he was not looking good. Also, the beach isn't a good look. You should be working. And I'm like,
how much time did you spend golfing, my guy?
Yeah. Or at Mar-a-Lago, which I heard that Trump apparently sold right before the Tucker Carlson interview, but I haven't actually looked that up. So let's see if that's true.
I don't know, man. I understand, I get why a lot of Republicans like him as far as his stances on certain things go. He's good as far as Republican views go. He's good on taxes. He's good on small businesses. He's good on a number of things that Republicans want. Yeah. From the Republican viewpoint, you could argue he's not good on taxes, but as far as what Republicans want out of a candidate, he covers the bases. But he's
okay.
He's
I
just
can see where you're
policy wise.
Yeah,
but he just is not a good person.
He's just, he just has so many deficits, morally, intellectually, incontinentally. Is that?
So let me ask you a question. Would you rather, since this is an election podcast, would you rather vote for somebody you disagree with, who you know is a good person, or someone you agree with, who you know is a terrible person?
Am I in any way able to guarantee that the person who I think is a terrible person will continue to make policy decisions that I agree with? Am I allowed to separate their personality from their political choices, or is there some expectation that their personal habits or moral failings will eventually influence their policy decisions?
That's a good question. I would say whatever you think is true about Trump. Because, for example, I hate Trump as a person. I can see a number of his policies, right? I do not like Biden very much as a politician. I think he's got a number of policies that I could stand behind. I think Obama, not a whole lot I agree with him on. I think he's a good person most of the time. I look at people like Barack Obama, George W. Bush, even Bill Clinton, and I think those are 3 presidents in a row who I could say, at the time at least, I don't know about today, but at the time at least, I could say were good people who were probably trying to do the best that they had. And, agree with them or not, I felt like they probably they had that good person going for them. I don't get that about Trump. I get it less so about Biden. And so I would say if you're willing to separate the personality and the politics from Trump, then I would say yes, you can do that for yourself. If not, then no.
So here's how I'll answer. I think I would rather. I honestly, I really don't care about somebody's personality if they're going to make good choices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why, like, if Bush ran, or somebody like Bush ran again, who, you know, seems like a very nice guy, that's not gonna weigh at all on my my decision to vote. But there is a limit.
Sure.
And Trump is so far across that line that even if he, like, handed me a legal notepad and said, "Here, Andrew, you tell me every decision that I should make in the next 4 years, if God forbid he was elected," I still would not vote for him.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I would rather vote for someone who I disagree with, but I think is a good person trying their best. Personally, because for me, like, ideally I would find someone, I think we can all say this, we would all find someone who we could vote for who is a good person and agrees with our views. But that's not always the case. And I feel like, I mean, bringing my own personal religious beliefs into it, something that we are counseled to look for in our politics as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because we're never told vote Republican, we're never told vote Democrat. We're always told look at the individual candidates, become well-versed in the issues, make up your own decision, make up your own mind based on what you think is the best thing, and try and vote for people who are the best equipped, the best qualified, and the best moral stances for, you know, the position they're going for. And, you know, from that, I tend to take away vote for good people, because a good person who you don't like is more likely to be a good leader than a bad person who you do like.
Politically. Yeah, I would agree. And that's why I'm saying, like, if I could guarantee that, you know, the bad person would continue to make choices that I agreed with, then it might be different. Or no, I guess it wouldn't really be different. But I think if in general, I agree that in general, I think the people whose positions I agree with, I think are more or less fundamentally good people.
Sure.
You know, there may be a few rare cases where that's not the case, but if I am able to trust that they're going to be making good choices, I don't care, to an extent. I don't care, you know, if they cheated on their wife, or, you know, if they kick puppies, or I don't know, call mayonnaise with garlic in it aioli.
Oh my gosh. That's like a 3-week-old joke, man. 3-episode-old joke. More than 3
this
weeks.
Is constant.
This
is a constant
constant struggle
endeavor in my life to just get people to acknowledge mayonnaise for what it is. But yeah, like it really doesn't matter to me as long as I can trust that they're going to continue making good choices. But I think, you know, the way that actually works in reality is people's moral centers you know, influence kind of policy decisions that they're going to make. And so typically, if I don't agree with someone's politics, I'm also not going to agree you know, with the majority of their morals. But like I said, even if Trump was, like, having me personally dictate his policy decisions, I still would not vote for him to be president, because he is so just absolutely abhorrent.
Right. And I would say, I mean, like, for me, I think it's a lot of what's in it for them. right? If they're the
Yeah.
kind of person who is wanting to be president or senator or whatnot because they like the office, they like the authority, they like the position, which there's a great quote by someone, I can never remember who it's by, but it boils down to essentially that the people who seek power are not the ones who should have it, right?
Yeah.
And
but I also think there's no such thing as being, truly altruistic.
I think we got close a few times. I think
close. But I'm talking about 100% purely altruism.
Sure.
Everyone is going to be influenced by, how it benefits them personally. And it's a spectrum, but it's never
say,
completely,
are they driven?
Off the table.
Yeah, but for me, is it someone who's driven by that selfishness, that selfish desire for power and control? Because if it is, that's not the person I want. And that's the kind of vibe that I get from Trump. That's the kind of vibe I get from DeSantis. That's the kind of vibe I get from a lot of Democrats in control. Nancy Pelosi, for sure, I get that vibe from her. She just is more wanting to be in control for the sake of being in control. I'm not going to say that's exactly what it is. Okay. But that's just the sense I get from her and from other politicians, when I see that. But when I look at people like Nikki Haley, I look at people like Condoleezza Rice, or I'll look at Tulsi Gabbard.
I think Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
I would whether or not you agree with his politics, I think it's hard to deny. Yeah, he's really actually trying to do the right thing.
Right. I think he's going about it the wrong way, but I can respect that he's genuinely trying to help people.
Yeah.
And I think Mitt Romney was another person who was in that spectrum.
I can see that.
Yeah, but I don't see that with a lot of current politicians, and that's something that scares me, honestly.
I do think it's going to be interesting, and we should probably wrap it up because I think we're going on hour and a half. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the... Oh, wait, I mean, there isn't going to be a Democratic field.
No, the Democratic Party shut down primary elections and announced Biden. That is one thing I really don't like about the Democratic Party is how they run their primaries. Because even if you get every state voting for you in the primaries, it all comes down to the actual convention and how the delegates vote, which is ridiculous to me. Voting in a Democratic primary is pointless. The way the system is set up.
I wouldn't say that, but I do think that it is very far removed from a true democracy. And I think that there's, there's pros and cons to a true democracy. I think one of the cons is the risk of devolving into just mob rule. But I also don't think that that's really a danger with, in this case. I don't think if we had a purely democratic election.
But that's why you have a representative democracy. And that's not how the Republican primaries do it. I agree. So a lot of times that can devolve into mob rule. But the way the Democratic National Committee does it turns more into an oligarchy among the Democratic Party.
No, I agree. And I think, like we said in our very first episode, I think the choice to not have even debates really robs the constituency of an opportunity to respond to what the party platform is.
I 100% agree. And I think it's really sad because there are a number of Democrats that I would happily vote for against Trump. There's a number of them. And it's sad that we're not going to get to that. We're going to be probably stuck with the same choice we had last time, which is not a choice that I enjoyed having.
Either Trump or Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's not my first choice. But that's, if that is the choice, I'm more than happy to choose Biden.
Oh, brother, it's not my first, third, second, third, fourth, or 10th choice. There's so many people I would rather vote for over either of them. And if it comes down to it, I will probably just vote Libertarian again.
Well, that's basically throwing your vote away, but...
Is it? I mean, Just like throwing your vote away in a Democratic primary?
I didn't throw my vote away.
I'm just saying, at least my vote actually counts for something when I vote for a libertarian in a general election. Sure, I'm not going to win, but at least it still gets counted as a vote towards a person than any vote in any Democratic primary.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I thought you were making a reference to Hillary versus Bernie.
No.
Okay, yeah.
Well, hey, on that note, do you want to give us our closing credits?
Yes, thank you to Halcyon Club for letting us use their song This Life is Tough But Fair from their EP Headset Emotions. And you're probably already listening to this on Spotify or something, but you can also find the YouTube recording. Just search for Agreeable Disagreements. And also, I just want to thank everyone who's been listening so far. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback, and we really, really appreciate that.
Do you really quick want to shout out some of the specific people that we know have been listening?
Oh, sure. I mean, my boss, Lisa, my friend, Sarah, various people from my church, my cousin, Alex, let's see. Mark,
your list is significantly longer than mine. Your list is significantly longer than mine.
Is it?
So I know, and I want to say thank you to the 3 people I know for sure have listened to it, which is my cousin Harrison and my mission companion and good friend Brian, who both live text me as they're listening to it and tell me, oh, but there's this. Oh, but what about that? And honestly, I think that's pretty cool. That's an experience I did not expect to have. And then also a kid who's my sister's age, who I grew up, his dad was my young men's leader, Drew, who I just found out through my mom listens to it. And I don't know if my mom listens or not. I know she's listened to 1 or 2 episodes, but I just honestly, I don't know who else I know. I've looked at the stats, and I know that there's a good chunk of people that I know who listen to it, but I don't know who they are. So thank you.
No, I mean, really, it's been, I think, obviously, I think a lot of our listeners are people that, know us personally.
Yeah.
But I've been really pleasantly surprised with the people who have, come up to me and complimented the podcast, who are not people that I expected to hear from. I was, there were a couple people, we just had my grandfather's funeral a couple weeks ago, and there were people in attendance who go to my church who had listened to it on their way to the memorial service.
Interesting.
But so I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you
to everyone for your support. And also ask that if you do like the show, please, do all the things, subscribe, share.
Right, because podcasts aren't subject to an algorithm that gets pushed in your face on social media unless we start social media campaigns, which right now I don't think either one of us have time to do.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So the only exposure we get is through listener sharing.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, do you have a fun fact for us?
I do. The pyramids of Giza were just as old to the ancient Romans as the ancient Romans are old to us.
But still not as old as your mom. Hi-oh! Got it.